Ever since I was a kid, people around me tend to have high expectations of me, whether it be that one time I scored full marks for my math exam and suddenly everyone around me expects me to continue this performance, or when I barely even enrolled into a school and my teacher expects me to be a smart, hardworking boy just because they taught my hardworking elder sibling before. When you are able to meet the expectations of others, it feels good and you hope that you can continue this streak, but when it doesn't, that's when everything starts going not just downhill, but literally into the abyss. When I was a kid, I used to want to be a pilot. I consumed tons of relevant content and knowledge to aid me on reaching that dream over the span of many years until I'm at the age where I'm eligible to enroll into the program. I didn't embark on this journey quietly. Many people around me knew, my friends, my family, everyone knew that I was on this path and they expected me to reach it, especially when I'm doing so well in other aspects of my life. I took care of my physical health, I was fit, my studies was great. People start to have high expectations of me whether I like it or not. Of course, when I was able to meet their expectations, doing well in my studies, getting attention from certain popular people, candidly speaking, it does feel great, and even more so when I exceeded their expectations. However, up to a certain point, the expectations that people have of me start to drown and shackle me. Because I was so afraid of not meeting their expectations, I would often hold myself back just so I would not make any mistakes. It's better to hover around the standard that I would often achieve, or slightly lower than to fail entirely and be an embarrassment. If that happens, I'll be obliged to give excuses that were far from the truth. If I didn't score well for my exams, I'll just say that I slept late the night before, playing computer games or watching shows. It came to a point where I start giving these excuses before it even happened. Every time before an exam, I'll straight up just tell my friends that I didn't study much, when in reality, I mucked like crazy. So if I indeed did not achieve the results I want, at least I've already built on that lie that I gave myself and those around me that I didn't study that hard, and it ended up becoming a habit. There's even times where those lies I've been giving to myself and others became reality, and I indeed did not study since people already knew I don't. Going back to where I left off on my pilot story, I participated in the enrollment test for the program and was left with the medical checkup by the board, of which I passed. I'll be able to enroll into the program officially. However, one fateful day during a training under the pouring rain, I fell and dislocated my arm. It happened during a critical point of my pilot application, and as I've anticipated, I failed the medical checkup. I started to blame those around me, blaming those that pushed me so hard during the training under the pouring rain, blaming the wet ground, the weather, everything else except for myself. I felt like I've let those around me down, which I was afraid of, but it wasn't that bad until those people start saying comments like, if not for that fall, you could have become a pilot instead of what you're doing now. As time goes by, this identity of what I could have been became a chronic excuse that I would use every time someone asked me what I do for a living. My very first sentence after their question would always be along the lines of, oh, I used to want to be a pilot until I injured my arm. And for the longest time, I couldn't break away from giving that excuse, and I felt that it was a naive attempt by my younger self to clutch onto that identity that gave me a pretty high sense of self-worth that I was not willing to lose. I'm going to be very frank. Even until recently, I was guilty of doing just that, and I hated myself for it. I constantly asked myself, why couldn't I just break away from my past and just move on? There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing right now, and what has happened in the past were in the past. And a huge reason why I think I wasn't able to break away from that was pretty much me peaking in my way younger years. It's like those popular classmates that you used to have back in high school, struggling to even make a simple living after graduating, and still constantly brag about how great they were thousands of years ago. It has been almost a decade since then, and many years later, I still struggle with this chronic loser mentality. What's wrong with just telling someone straight in their face what I was doing and not bring up about the past? Basically, nothing. And if I truly spend some time thinking about it, no one really cares at the end of the day. In fact, as I thought about it more deeply, mentioning right off the bat that I used to want to be a pilot until that accident pretty much made me sound like a loser. No one asked about it, so why can't I just shut my mouth about it? I'm not sure about what you have been through, but if you have watched here this point, I'm sure you could relate to what I've been sharing, and I would just like to say that you are not alone in this. As much as I share about self-improvement on this channel, just like this, I'm still facing certain problems and issues that frankly have yet to overcome fully. But this channel gives me an opportunity to face my problems head on, to give myself time to look at my own flaws so that I can share them with you. You could just be like me, finding it so hard to get over the past, except that you have pretty much peaked in high school or something. Stop giving excuses, move forward, and just be a better version than before. Accept that things that has happened and are all now in the past. What really matters is what's going to happen next. It's kind of stupid to keep flipping to the front of a book and kept repeating what has already happened. No one reads books like that. It's all about flipping to the next page and finding out what's going to happen next. And most of the time, how a storybook ends would pretty much also impact how much you like that book, and not because it has a great start. Life is essentially just like that. Just flip to the next page and move on.